ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, שהכל נהיה בדברו.
Rivalry among brothers seems to be a constant in the biblical narrative. From the very beginning, Cain and Abel make offers to God. As a matter of fact, the first one to make the offer is Cain. First sacrifice is Cain. Then comes Abel. God somehow rejects Cain's offering and accepts Abel's. What hurt Cain more? Was it the fact that God didn't accept his offering? Or was it the fact that God did accept Abel's offering? You know, the patriarch Isaac is already in the last days of his life. He is practically blind, and he wants to offer a blessing to one of his sons, and there's a rivalry between Jacob and Esau, Yaakov and Esav. So the mother feels that the real heir should be Jacob, and she goes, disguises him, and he goes and presents himself in front of the father with the food that the father had requested prior. What was Jacob's intent really? Was it to obtain the father's blessing, or maybe to show that he can really be like his brother Esau, whom he probably in some way wished he were? He admired the faculties that Esau had and that he didn't. You know, on his deathbed, Jacob blesses his grandsons, Menashe and Ephraim. And that blessing is used by many people, including my late father did that, and I did that with our sons also. Friday night before reciting the Kiddush, I repeat the blessing that Jacob used for his grandchildren. Why didn't he use a blessing for his children instead of one for his grandchildren? Well, I remember reading once that the late chief rabbi of the late chief rabbi of Great Britain, Lord Jacobowitz, once said that parents and children and sons sometimes have differences, but parents and grandparents never have. They love each other. You know, there are no mistakes that your grandson can make. So therefore, maybe what we are trying to do is to say to our children, you should be like Menashe and Ephraim, where there's no conflict. Or maybe it's something else. Menashe and Ephraim lived outside of Israel. They were born in Egypt, and yet they retained their Jewish identity. And many of us are outside of Israel, and the blessing is, just like Menashe and Ephraim retain their Jewish identity, so I bless you, my child, that you should also retain your Jewish identity. But let's go back to the episode. Jacob is about to bless his grandchildren, and he puts his right hand on top of the head of the younger son. He crosses his hands, and Joseph says to him, no, father, that is not the older one. The older one is on the other side. But the father doesn't listen to him. He says, no, I'm sorry, this is the way the blessing goes. Joseph protested. Now, why did not Menashe, who was the older son, why didn't he protest? Maybe the idea is that Menashe was very satisfied with himself. You know, we become envious of somebody else when we feel insufficient ourselves, when we are incomplete. Maybe this is what the first one, Cain, felt. Somehow he felt that he wasn't the right person for it. And he was envious of Abel, who was. Maybe Jacob also felt envious of Esau. And what Jewish tradition says, get up in the morning and say, Modeh ani lefanecha. I thank you, God, that I'm alive, that I can breathe, that I can love people, that I can do things. Forget about what somebody else has. Take a look at what you have. Take a look at your own family. Take a look at your own accomplishments. You didn't do enough? Okay, there's another day. There's an opportunity to try to do more. But don't look into somebody else's grass that is always greener. Don't interchange your problems with somebody else's. You don't know what skeletons are in their closets. You don't know what is deep down in their families. Be satisfied with what you have. Be satisfied and build upon it. Be satisfied with the talents God gave you and develop them, and you'll become a much better human being.